discussions with policy makers and opinion leaders, and we'll also have a newsreel where we will be delving into street food that we consume as Ugandans and its safety, or even its dire results when it comes to our health. So stick around and do this with us, because it's going to be a fully packed show and we are going to have a good time. Stick around. But with that being said, I'd like to go to Studio B and check on the newest face on the team. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm great. How was your weekend?
My weekend was quite rough, I must say. Life as it is, but I'm glad to be here to inspire Uganda.
Like they say, we try again this week, right?
I know, that is very, very true. But good to be with you all and good to be with the viewer out there.
Okay, now we have had lots of news coming in, especially in the last 24 hours. And news coming in from the world of sports is that Kiplimo did a thing for Uganda again. Do you know anything about that?
Oh well, it's good news for Uganda, but one thing I should say, his land is blessed. I know he comes from the Sebei clan, and it's one of those things where we're like, what do these guys eat? You know? Yeah. But also the fact that he started this as a young man. Right now he's 24 years, and if you look back at a bit of his history, 15 years old, he was the youngest Olympian for Uganda at the 2016 Rio Olympics. That alone speaks a lot of volume into his career. He also did a bit of the trials still on the world map, and he wasn't selected only because he was young, yet he won. So really, as we speak right now, that victory is well deserved for him, and we congratulate him as Ugandans.
Yes, we do congratulate Kiplimo. Now, if you don't know, Kiplimo became the first human being to run a sub, that is 57 minutes, half marathon, and he crossed the line after 56:42 seconds at the Barcelona half marathon. So congratulations to him and congratulations to Uganda. These young men are raising Uganda's flag even higher every single day. Good morning, Jerome.
Well, good morning to you, Olive, and good morning to our dear viewer out there. And hope you're doing well, hope you're doing fine, hope you're doing fantastic, hope the energy is right, hope you are ready to fix the nation in the best way you can. The week is here, and on a good note, we started with Jacob Kiplimo winning the half marathon in Barcelona, and what a record he placed up there. And of course, he beat the record by 48 seconds because the current holder had ran the same marathon for 57 minutes and 30 seconds. So he just went short of that at around 46 minutes to about 20 seconds in there, and to about 42 seconds rather, 56 minutes and 42 seconds, breaking another record on the world stage. For someone who has done a bit of the marathon, last year I had the chance to run a 10-kilometer marathon, and I ran it under 2 hours. So seeing someone running a 21-kilometer marathon for just 56 minutes clearly shows that this person is a runner. And just like Julie has mentioned, the people of Sebei region or Sebei sub-region should definitely be happy about the provisions or about the developments coming in from their own talents. But then also, Olive, on the African continent, it is quite unfortunate, but then also a sign that maybe Mzee Raila Odinga is not a lucky person when it comes to elections, because he was defeated in the African Union chairmanship race that took place in Ethiopia. And of course, when you look back into there's so many things that happened in Addis Ababa. The first 2 rounds out of the 7, Raila Odinga, or Baba Raila Odinga, was on the verge of victory because at least he won the first 2 rounds. However, in the 3rd round, when there was someone who was actually dropped out of the race, I'm trying to get the name, the Madagascar foreign minister, former Madagascar foreign minister, dropped out of the race after the 3rd round. Now it was a 2-race kind of thing, and this race finally summed it up with Djibouti's foreign minister, that is Mohamed Youssef, beating Raila Odinga, who dropped out in the 6th round, leaving the now chairperson of the African Union, who will be taking the 4 years reign as the chairperson of the AUC, winning it in the 7th and final decisive round after Raila Odinga bowed out in the 6th round. So a lot of attention from Kenya was on that particular race, and surprisingly the people of Kenya did not want Raila Odinga to win the race, and they were backing the eventual winner. And well, of course, it was a lot of celebration. There was a lot of celebration rather in Kenya when Raila Odinga was defeated on this particular race. Something that is quite interesting and surprising, because Raila Odinga has been one of the favorites in Kenya because of the fact that he has been the leading opposition leader during the presidential elections or the presidential races in Kenya.
And he did say after he lost that blame game and speculation may start because of his alliance to President Ruto, because President Ruto said he would support him during this venture. But he did say that, yes, he lost and no blame should go to President Ruto. He was only supporting him. And I like that Ruto was actually supporting him, despite the fact that the two were contesting for the presidential seat back when they had their last election. But now, Joram, the bad news that is coming in on the side of Democratic Republic of Congo. Another city has fallen to M23 rebels, and it is being reported that the M23 have taken up the city of Bukavu, which they have been aiming to take after the fall of the city of Goma. So news coming in from that side is not really good, and reports also indicate that they didn't receive much resistance from government troops. So you can see how the picture is being portrayed for you. And I don't know, from the side of Congo's government, it's not a good picture, but for the M23 rebels, it seems they are gaining more and more strength as they move along. Well, Robert Chirabo, good morning.
Good morning to you and welcome back from our weekend, our viewer and of course the team. So much happened over the weekend, and of course we've had that picture, but I want to come back home and focus on the Janan Luwum celebrations that happened in Chitugum and to be more specific in Muchuni, where he was born and buried. Now these celebrations, the Prime Minister represented, His Excellency was supposed to be the main celebrant. Now, during his speech, that is the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda called upon government to forgive Dr. Kizza Besigye or have him released from prison due to his health that is seemingly to be deteriorating. Now, yesterday at around 7, Dr. Kizza Besigye was transferred from Ruzila prison for better treatment in a place yet to be revealed by the authorities, that is the security authorities, but he was transferred, he was rushed for better treatment, not in a very good state, though reports coming in say that, well, he is not in a very bad state and he is undergoing better treatment. Remember, last Friday when this man appeared before court on charge of inciting violence, that was in 2022, there he wasn't in a very good state, and all over the weekend we've seen efforts. The Medical Association also had some insight into his health, family members and many saying no, let him have better treatment. Then also let's not forget the Supreme Court ruling. So there is so much that is surrounding him, and we expect him, even as the week unfolds, to be making more news regarding his health and how it's being handled. But the Archbishop coming up on such a day where we commemorate and celebrate the life of Archbishop Janan Luwum, who is also equally celebrated in Canterbury as one of the people that stood out strongly and condemned the evil during Idi Amin Dada's regime in 1977. So it is so much unfolding and yet to be happening as the week unfolds.
Well, indeed. Now, let's have a look at some of the news stories that have been gathered for our viewer today, and that is the news that has occurred in the last 24 hours.
All right, the 38th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union officially opened at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, that is in Ethiopia, under the theme Justice for Africans and People of African Descent Through Reparations. Now, this theme addresses historical injustices and lasting aftermath on the African continent. Her Excellency, the Vice President Jessica Alupo, represented the President of Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni, and she joined over 35 heads of state and government and under a number of senior government officials in respective countries. Now, the Vice President was accompanied by the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, John Mulimba, Uganda's ambassador to Ethiopia, Rebecca Otengo, Uganda's military attaché to Ethiopia, Colonel Fred Zache, and a number of Ugandan officials from the African Union and Ugandan Embassy in Addis Ababa. And in his opening remarks, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed, called upon African nations to strengthen unity for sustainable development. His Excellency Abiy emphasized that Africa's pursuit for justice for historical damages should not be misinterpreted as requested for aid. And he said that in the world marked by dynamic change, Africa is faced by a magnitude of uncertainties, calling for strengthening protective goals, resilience, and foster unity across the continent. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in a speech read for his by Under Secretary General, said that the partnership between the United Nations and African Union has never been stronger, and collectively they can see Africa brimming with hope and possibilities. The leaders of African Union countries on Saturday elected a new chief for the branch that runs the organization's daily operations in Djibouti. Foreign Minister and the Djibouti Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf as the next chair of the African Union Commission in a secret ballot.
Moving on, thousands of Christians celebrated the 48th Janan Luwum Day at his ancestral home in Muchuni ceremonial grounds in Kitgum. President Museveni, who was represented by the Prime Minister Robert Nabanja, described Janan Luwum as a great leader, while the clergy, led by the Archbishop His Grace Stephen Kazimba, encouraged the Christians to emulate Janan Luwum. Every 16th of February, the Anglican Church and the faithful celebrate Janan Luwum Day after it was gazetted by Parliament to be a public holiday. The Anglican Church headquarters from England also recognized Janan Luwum, who was the third Archbishop, as the martyr for his great contribution to the development of the Anglican Church in Uganda, DRC, Rwanda, and Burundi. Janan Luwum was killed in 1977 for being critical of the then government of Idi Amin Dada. At Muchuni ceremonial grounds in Kitgum district, the church service kicked off at exactly 9 a.m. with a procession of bishops and the Mothers Union. The Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, the Most Reverend His Grace Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, was the main celebrant, with the Bishop of Ankole Diocese, the Most Reverend Sheldon Mwesigwa, as the preacher. In his sermon, Kazimba called on government to consider releasing retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye from Mozilla prison on grounds of poor health that will show the art of forgiveness, just like Janan Luwum did. The two men of God also encouraged Christians to remain faithful and emulate the resiliency exhibited by Janan Luwum. President Museveni, who was meant to be the chief guest, delegated the Prime Minister Robert Nabanja to represent him. In his speech read to the congregation of believers, Museveni described Janan Luwum as a true and great leader. The Prime Minister Robert Nabanja delivered 30 million shillings as his contribution of President Museveni towards that day, and the wreath which was laid on the grave housing the remains of Janan Luwum.
And speaking of Dr. Besigye, a section of doctors led by former president of Uganda Medical Association, Ekwari Obuku, want to petition President Yoweri Museveni in on the health of detained Dr. Kizza Besigye. The doctors described their petition as humble and signed by over 1,000 doctors demanding attention from authorities about continued detention of Dr. Kizza Besigye amid a recent Supreme Court declaration and ruling. Now, this comes after close relatives of Dr. Kizza Besigye said they received calls from Luzira prison asking for the personal doctor of Dr. Besigye. Family members of Dr. Besigye demand for his immediate release following concerns that his health situation is deteriorating, and a joint statement signed by the Byanyima family asserts that the prison authorities called requesting for Dr. Besigye's personal doctor, implying or amplifying that the former FDC leader is not well. Dr. Kizza Besigye and friend Obed Lutale are still in prison despite court ruling stopping their trial from a military court. And these accuse religious leaders, among other prominent organizations, for silence over the demand of the release of Dr. Kizza Besigye. But during the celebration to remember Janan Luwum in Kitgum, the Archbishop of Uganda, Dr. Kazimba Mugalu, questioned why the Supreme Court ruling has not been respected. And meanwhile, a section of doctors led by former president of Uganda Medical Association, Ekwaro Obuku, want to petition President Yoweri Museveni on the health of detained Dr. Kizza Besigye. While prison authorities remain silent about the health of Dr. Besigye, close associates said that the former presidential candidate is on a hunger strike, and government recently agreed to respect and implement the Supreme Court ruling and declarations.
And finally, from the local scene, the Islamic University in Uganda has initiated $1 million project to educate over 250 personnel to handle learners at primary school level. The rector of the Islamic University in Uganda, Professor Ismail Jagenda, said the initiative follows the Ministry of Education and Sports guidelines that by 2030 all teachers handling students in class must acquire a degree. The Islamic University in Uganda organized an IUIU dinner to fundraise to improve the education system in the institution. The rector of the Islamic University said the initiative is to support a government policy on education. The executive director, Kampala Capital City Authority, Sharifa Buzeki, said the Islamic University in Uganda should try and change the morals of all students who go through the institution. The chairman, organizing committee, Bashir Sejembe, said they came up with the theme, rekindling bounds, building dreams, unleashing alumni potential for better, with the aim to look ahead and go change things, could address in a short period of time and move forward.
Now, looking at the news across the borders from Africa, Kyiv has not been invited to talks between the US and Russia aimed at ending the war in Ukraine, a senior Ukrainian government source told the BBC. The U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, had said Kyiv would be involved in Monday's talks in Saudi Arabia, but the source said no delegation would be present. European leaders have also not been asked to join the discussions and are due to meet instead on Monday in Paris at a summit hastily arranged by the French president as fears grow the continent is being locked out of negotiations. The separate meetings follow a turbulent week where Washington has signaled change in its approach to the war in Ukraine. The White House's Middle East envoy Stephen Witkoff confirmed he was traveling to Saudi Arabia on Sunday evening for the first face-to-face talks between the US and Russia towards ending the conflict. US President Donald Trump revealed on Sunday that Witkoff had met with Putin already for a very extended period, like about 3 hours. And moving on, Israel's Prime Minister has said he's working to make US President Donald Trump's plan to remove and resettle Gaza's population a reality. Benjamin Netanyahu said he was cooperating with the US on a common strategy for the Palestinian territory after meeting with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Jerusalem on Sunday. The talks come after US President Donald Trump proposed the US take over Gaza and removal of the 2 million Palestinians there to neighboring countries. The UN has warned that any forced displacement of civilians from occupied territory is strictly prohibited and under international law and tantamount to ethnic cleansing. America's top diplomat said President Trump's plan may have shocked and surprised people, but it took courage to propose an alternative to tired ideas of the past. Netanyahu said he and Rubio had discussed ways to implement Trump's vision, adding that the US and Israel had a common position on Gaza. The Israeli leader warned that the gates of hell would be opened if all Israeli hostages held by the armed group Hamas were not released. And lastly, Moshen Hendricks, a pioneering figure dubbed the world's first openly gay imam, has been shot dead in South Africa. The 57-year-old cleric ran a mosque in Cape Town intended as a safe haven for gay and other marginalized Muslims. He was killed on Saturday morning after the car in which he was traveling near the southern city of Kibera was ambushed. Two unknown suspects with covered faces got out of the vehicle and started firing multiple shots at the vehicle, police said in a statement. News of Hendricks' death has sent shockwaves through the LGBTQ+ community and beyond, prompting an outpouring of tributes from across the globe. Julia Att, Executive Director at the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Intersex Association, called on the authorities to thoroughly investigate what we fear may be a hate crime. He supported and mentored so many people in South Africa and around the world in their journey to reconcile with their faith, and his life has been a testament to the healing that solidarity across communities can bring in everyone's lives, she said. Well, that does it for our local and international news. Now let's have a look at the press.
Well, as the 2026 general elections keep moving closer, now the NRM government has dug deeper into northern Uganda because Mapenduzi finds new home in the ruling party. Find more details in today's New Vision as Museveni and courts, European investors, find details in there. Then also Kiplimo setting a new world record. That is also written in today's New Vision. The New Vision also writes something quite interesting about Uganda hosting Continental Water Conference, as there is a minister who has cancelled 50 land titles. Then minister tips farmers on working with narrow pictorial of the Minister of Agriculture at the Harvest Money Expo at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium over the weekend. Now with the Daily Monitor, pressure grows. The chorus, Dr. Kiza Besigye was last evening reportedly taken to a medical facility in Bugolobi, Kampala, as calls for his release from detention gained ground from the church, politicians, family, medical professionals, and residents of Ntungamo district, among others. Now at the front page of the Daily Monitor, there is the church voice from Stephen Kazima Mugalu, the Archbishop, Church of Uganda, Major General Mugisha Muntu, President, Alliance for National Transformation Party, Edith Byanyima, Dr. Besigye's sister-in-law, and then Dr. Herbert Luswata, who is the President, Uganda Medical Association. Now in the matters healthy living, dangers of too much exercise, find details in the Daily Monitor. Kiplimo is fast to run half marathon in under 57 minutes. Find that in the Daily Monitor Sport and read more about that world record that was broken by Jacob Kiplimo. Now, in Kenya, the Daily Nation, big test for Ruto and Raila handshake. In matters politics, loss paves the way for Odinga's grand return to the helm of the ODM party. Now, 2027 is coming closer as well. Odinga's failure to clinch the African Union Commission seat could significantly impact President Ruto's chances of securing a second term come 2027. Now at the front page is President William Ruto with Raila Odinga at State House Nairobi on August 27th, 2024, when he was officially unveiled as Kenya's candidate for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission. Now then also Chiptumo's final ball. Senator William Chipkorir Chiptumo, who died on Saturday, will be remembered for ending the Moi hegemony in Baringo County. Now, Treasury releases county's list of shame and bottom 10 counties that allocated less than 30% to development projects in 2023-2024. And interestingly, Nairobi is topping this particular one. But in regards to percentage, you can see Kakamega, Nyamira and Nandi carrying the lion's share of the percentage, followed by the likes of Mombasa, Kisumu and Taita Taveta and Kiambu. Now, also, government borrowed 68.7 billion Kenyan shillings in just 4 months. Read about that in the Daily Nation. And lastly here, from across the region, what the NHIF reforms intend to achieve. And then CRDB Bank expands to Dubai as it celebrates its 30th anniversary. Then in matters national health, groundbreaking child cancer care program has been launched in Tanzania. And then how women are blazing the trail in medicine and science, as also the Tanzanian government moves closer to finalizing real estate law. Then lastly, we look at the Uganda Gazette and looking at some of the top highlights from what you can find in the Gazette this week. The contents, as with the first page, show that the Commissioner for Oath Advocates Act notices is involved. The Marriage Act notices, the Education Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act notices, the Mining and Minerals Act notices, the Advocates Act, the Companies Act, Insolvency Act, the Civil Aviation, Aircraft Instruments and Equipment Regulations notices, all with the contents this week. The Police Control of Private Security Organization Regulations notices, the Electricity Act notices, the Trademarks Act registration of applications in there. Now, part of the supplements are the statutory instruments, the Traffic and Road Safety Prescription of Speed Limits Regulations 2025 and the Anti-Money Laundering Amendment of Schedule 2 Instrument 2025. And then there is also a corrigenda which is hereby made to the Uganda Gazette dated 24th January 2025, where the Capital Markets Corporate Governance Regulations was erroneously published with number 4 of 2025, and it is hereby corrected in the same Gazette for this week, which is running from the 14th of February till the 20th of February. Now, also, there are some appointments coming in. There is Tugachungura Ronald, an advocate of the High Court, being appointed to be a Commissioner of Oaths under the Commission of Oath Advocates Act Commission. And then also Mwesiga Peterson has also been appointed to be a Commissioner for Oaths. And signed on the same is Alfonso Chigamoy Winyidoro, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda.
And now we will take a short break, but we have an inspiration song of the day for you from DJ Giovanni. The song is Thank You, Lord. We thank God for the new week. Enjoy.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is
on a Friday. Good morning, my name is Olive Monica Najuma. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, where we not only inform you but also aim to inspire you by giving you updates on all the important news stories that you have been looking at over the past 24 hours, over the past week. And today is no different as we get into that with my co-hosts, that is Jerome Paul Sonko and Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono, and also the newest face on the team, that is Julie Nantaba Mosisi. And together we now take you through the first hours of this new week. Good morning, welcome aboard. I am so glad to have you here with us, and we will do what we do best today. We will have topical discussions with policy makers and opinion leaders, and we'll also have a newsreel where we will be delving into food, street food that we consume as Ugandans, and its safety, or even its dire results when it comes to our health. So stick around and do this with us, because it's going to be a fully packed show, and we are going to have a good time. Stick around. But with that being said, I'd like to go to Studio B and check on the newest face on the team. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm great. How was your weekend?
My weekend was quite rough, I must say. Life as it is, but I'm glad to be here to inspire Uganda.
Like they say, we try again this week, right?
I know, that is very, very true. But good to be with you all, and good to be with the viewer out there.
Okay, now we have had lots of news coming in, especially in the last 24 hours. And news coming in from the world of sports is that Kiplimo did a thing for Uganda again. Do you know anything about that?
Oh well, it's good news for Uganda, but one thing I should say, his land is blessed. I know he comes from the Sebei clan, and it's one of those things where we're like, what do these guys eat? You know?
Yeah.
But also the fact that he started this as a young man. Right now he's 24 years, and if you look back at a bit of his history, 15 years old, he was the youngest Olympian for Uganda at the 2016 Rio Olympics. That alone speaks a lot of volume into his career. He also did a bit of the trials still on the world map, and he wasn't selected only because he was young, yet he won. So really, as we speak right now, that victory is well deserved for him, and we congratulate him as Ugandans.
Yes, we do congratulate Kiplimo. Now, if you don't know, Kiplimo became the first human being to run a that is 57 minutes half marathon, and he crossed the line after 56:42 seconds at the Barcelona half marathon. So congratulations to him and congratulations to Uganda. These young men are raising Uganda's flag even higher every single day. Good morning, Jerome.
Well, good morning to you, Olive, and good morning to our dear viewer out there. And hope you're doing well, hope you're doing fine, hope you're doing fantastic, hope the energy is right, hope you are ready to fix the nation in the best way you can. The week is here, and on a good note, we started with Jacob Kiplimo winning the half marathon in Barcelona, and what a record he placed up there. And of course, he beat the record by 48 seconds because...
Okay, with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it's time for our news reel, 6 minutes past 7 o'clock on this beautiful Monday morning. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda if you're just joining us. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, together with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono, joining us from Studio B, and Jerome Paul Sonko, who is right next to me here in Studio A. Now, if you're Ugandan or have been in Uganda for a while, you know that we are no strangers to street food. And some of the street foods we enjoy is the famous Rolex that you can find on any street within the suburbs or in some cities and towns. Among others, we have gonja and so many other types of street food that we enjoy. But now, local leaders in Lira City are raising concern over roadside food vending. Today, we would like to delve into a conversation regarding the same, but in a broader perspective on roadside food vending in the country. But now, going back to Lira City, authorities in Lira have raised concerns about the growing number of roadside food vendors as the trend continues to increase daily. And according to them, major streets in in Lira City are now filled with the vendors offering various snacks such as chips, roasted and cooked chicken, chapati, beans and other fast foods. But they're saying that some of these foods, especially the cooked ones, are prepared at home and then delivered to their selling points, where they are often sold over low heat well into the evening. So join us for a conversation on this, and would like to know some of the health hazards you think can emerge from our consumption of street food. But first of all, going to Robert in Studio B. Robert, before we even look at the health hazards that may come as a result of taking or consuming street food, what has led to the growing trend of most street food vendors in different cities and towns in Uganda?
Well, thank you so much, Olive. I love the way you phrased that question, that what has led to this now becoming a problem and a solution at the same time. Because much as it's a problem health-wise, and to the city authorities, it is a solution to a problem somewhere. Now, one would say about 30 years back, we didn't have street vendors vending food. We didn't have the likes of the chikomando, which they have talked about here as chapati and beans, so prominent and pronounced as it is today. We didn't have the Rolex, that also they're talking about, so pronounced as it is today. We didn't have this chicken being roasted around. One, the developing urban centers. That is why now in every part of this country, there's an urban center. And what welcomes you in the urban center, away from the electricity, either by the power by solar or something, and the buildings, is the food vendors. Now, here is a population that is growing, and they need food. And they need cheap food. Now, what these offer is they offer cheap food, because when you go to a restaurant, this person will have to factor in rent, will have to factor in the people they are using, the workers there, will have to factor in electricity, will have to factor in a lot of things. And if you're to go and have chicken and maybe chips there, on average, it could be 15,000. Well, if someone came to the streets, on average, you would find that maybe you would get a piece of chicken at 5,000, then get chips maybe at 2,000, and that is a polite meal for them to take. If someone took chikomando maybe for about 5,000, I don't know, Rolex for about that same price. Now, the demand for cheap food is one of the things that has led to this, and increase in population. But also, you find that also the nature of our settlers, this rural urban migration that is happening, these majority of these are youth, and we know statistics have shown that our population, majority of these are youth, whereby they don't have so much of a family that they need to sit and cook a meal for them to eat. You know, he's a young man, he was born in Seguku, he gets a job in Lira City as an electrician. He's renting his one room or say an apartment. Now he's one. If he considers cooking, you know, cooking oil, buy the flour to make chapati, then the gas, and all this time, this young man, this young woman doesn't have that time to do that, because they don't have families that you need a meal for the rest of people to eat along with you. He'll rather slop down, get a piece of chicken, get chips on the street there, go home, eat. This young man would rather go and get a chapati or something like that. So the rural-urban migration and the nature of the population that is migrating in this, coupled with the demand for cheaper food, why would this young man enter a restaurant and spend 20,000, 15,000, yet the same young man or same young woman would have the same, I want to say that in quotes, would have the same at 7,000.
There
So
is
these are
also
some of the
the
factors,
there is
yes.
also the question on affordability, because if one meal is 15,000 onwards somewhere else where it is deemed cleaner and safer, and then there is a meal you can get at 5,000 as an urban youth who is probably unemployed or earning very little money. The choice is really in your hands. But you can join the conversation through WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. Now, Jerem, coming to you, some of the leaders in Lira City, but I believe that their concern cuts across even for the leaders in Kampala metropolitan and other cities in the country. Their main concern is that since most of this food is uncovered, you've seen those humongous saucepans selling, let's say, pilau. They are saying that since most of this food is oftentimes uncovered, there could be an issue of contamination. So in your perspective, what specific health risks are associated with consuming food that is left uncovered for large periods of time? Because if they start trading at about 6 p.m. well into the dead of night, what do you think?
Well, I may not be so much of the expert when it comes to health and related issues, but one thing I will tell you is when you look at the argument from the local leaders is that, one, there is contamination, and this contamination has got clear health risks with, for example, diseases such as the simplest of all can be cholera. That will definitely, cholera and then food poisoning. Those are like the first things those are the first health risks that you can easily get to know, or that you can be at risk of if at all you're consuming this kind of food. But then as someone who's also a consumer of street food, dependent on the specifics of street food, I would say the argument is goes 50-50. Especially the argument that people who sell food in closed restaurants selling safer food compared to those who are selling foods on the street. Why is that so? As we have seen, we've also seen reports where food safety in restaurants is quite questionable. That when you happen to go behind where this food is prepared, you'll be shocked by, one, the preservation methods. You'll be shocked by the fact that some foods have been there for a week or two. And so that is an argument that goes way beyond everyone running an eatery or something. But when we put our focus on the street food, the most concerning thing is the fact that most of these foods are in open air. And we all know the nature of our roads in Uganda.
By the road, so there is
the
dust, the
there's
fumes.
that bit of dust, the kind of air that we actually have because of the vehicles that tend to kind of release lots of gases out of their engines, out of their tanks. So you can easily see that kind of contamination. It is easily attracted to the kind of foodstuffs that are on the roads. Now, besides that, even in this report, the local leaders in Lira have also revealed that there is even a scenario where many of these roadside vendors will instantly run for a short call, a long call, and the next thing you're seeing is someone coming back to knit dar in order to prepare a chapati or something else.
So you don't even know if they've washed their hands.
If they have.
If they have.
Because that is also an open for discussion. But then this particular one opens room for a conversation of, do the people who sell food sell it just because they want to make money, or sell it because they want to practice safety measures of, food, let's say food sale, I should say.
I think for them it's to make money.
Okay, now that is the most worrying thing, because if it is the main emphasis is to make money, if someone wants to make money, they will sell to you any product for as long as it's generating income, making money, and they're not going to pay attention to anything. Because I have even seen scenarios here in Kampala where these restaurants that we love so much out there, the ones that we call the Toninyira, because of the kind of food they sell, which is actually very good food. But when you look at the places where this food is prepared from, it begs for a question of whether we really care about our health at the end of the day. And when you also look at the person preparing that food, the dress code, at times you just have to give it a blind eye and enjoy the food. Enjoy the meal.
Well, interesting submissions here. And if you're just joining the conversation, we are looking into the trend of street food vending, but also its associated risks when it comes to our health. Now, Robert, for those that love the famous Ugandan Rolex, that is a combination of eggs and chapati. Chapati is made out of a wheat dough. There is the common joke that the secret is in the dirty cup. The secret is in that dirty, you know, they use that paper that formerly had contained the wheat. So looking at that, how do you think the hygiene practices of some vendors, such as inadequate hand washing that Jerome Paul highlighted, contribute to the spread of non-communicable diseases?
Well, thank you again, Olive. I want to begin with what statistics have to say, global statistics, African statistics. Now, our data shows that over 50% of food sold on streets is unsafe, and consuming it can result into food-borne illnesses like cholera. Now, that is data available, 50%. Now, we go ahead to look at, according to the World Health Organization, that is WHO, an estimate of 600 million, almost 1 in 10 people in the world fall ill after eating contaminated food, and 420,000 die every year. Whereas children under the age of 5 carry 40% of the foodborne disease burden, with 125,000 deaths every year. Now, these are the statistics available, that when you eat that street food, 50% of this street food actually is contaminated. And you can get diseases, you can get food poison. The only thing with food poison, sometimes, if earlier checked, it may not go to the worst. But the fact is, this food is unsafe. Now, the challenge on the business aspect is, I remember all of us in economics and on business economics, where there is demand, then there is supply. Now, we talked about why there is demand already. That these people are continuing going to be there. Because when someone brings this saucepan of pilau, like Olive you said earlier, the moment they place it there, a full saucepan, in 3 hours it is empty. And this person has gone back home either to bring another saucepan, or this person knows that in 3 hours I'll be done, tomorrow they do the same thing. You can find a street almost entirely covered with people selling these chips and chicken with funny connections of electricity. But you talked about the hygiene, more so when it comes to the common Rolex. Now, first,
I used Rolex as an example, but there is also the chips, because there are also cases of using reused cooking oil to prepare the chicken, to prepare the chips. So hygiene and also the resources being used are questionable.
Now, first, the challenge we have with street food, the people preparing this food are not professional. That is one.
Professional chefs?
We are not talking about professional chefs. That they underwent training where hygiene was something that was into their mind.
Hygiene and proper food management.
And proper food management. They have nothing to do with that. Many of these women they are talking about in the city who come with the saucepans and put on the street have no knowledge regarding, even they are not food scientists, regarding even of how this food gets contaminated. As long as it still have a taste, they will have it. That is one problem, that you're eating food from a person who knows nothing about the key values of handling food when it comes to the food chain. Because we look at, until, it's not all about having food, but it's about how safe is the food you're taking. Even away from which health benefits are into it, but how safe is this food? Now, the people have no knowledge. Second, the institutions that are supposed to monitor food do not factor in these people, because no one licenses them. You see, Olive, if I'm going to open up a restaurant and I'm going to have a license, KCCA or the authority therein, because I'm registered, I've gotten this license, they even pass by to check on what I'm serving. Now, for this food vendor, he's not known to the authority. The structure that looks at food in that local government does not factor in this person. Only enforcement can come in, but they're not going to come and ask for where he prepares the food, like when you go to a genuine restaurant. Two, according to Sylvia Chirabo, the spokesperson of the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, she argues that there is a national standard of food safety, but she was quick to note that compliance with these standards is a challenge. Now, even the minimum standards, we do not have them. So, these people, the problem is they don't have the information. The bodies that would go in for them, when they look at their statistics of who to monitor, who to supervise, these people are nowhere. Now, it is left to local governments, the district health inspector, to look into this, who also has challenges like the politicians in the area, because they are telling you we are having unemployment. Now, these women... So
there is political interference when it comes to regulation.
You go for them, you want them away, they'll tell the politician, now look, we found a source of income. Women will come and parade their children.
So, Robert, how best can we have health and safety standards? I'll give you an example. I've seen footage of some inspectors who are making some ladies that prepare the food, like matoke, to get it out of those plastic bags that they normally prepare it in, and at least change it into banana leaves. And the ladies say that the plastic bags keep the food warm longer, but health medics say that this is a cause for cancer in many people. So looking at that, looking at the interference, political interference, and then of course looking at the fact that people need jobs and you know, income making, generating opportunities, how best and what solutions are you suggesting as far as food vending is concerned? It's here to stay. We shouldn't get rid of the people, but how do we ensure that the food they are selling to us is actually safe for human consumption?
First is creating awareness, the consumer and those providing the food. Because one of the challenges we have in our country is we carry enforcement without sensitization. I'll just give you a simple example away from the food that we are discussing today. Olive, have you seen how many people in their vehicles, the vehicles have seat belts, but they never wear them, only when they see a traffic officer in a distance, that someone rushes to put on a seat belt. I've seen border riders who have helmets and they're not putting them on. They're just in front of the motorcycles. Now, when they see a traffic officer, they'll put it on. But I was once part of a campaign where these borders were organized and they were being sensitized and taken through various clips. People having accidents and they don't have helmets. Now, I remember in that entire team, all of them purchased helmets and they have helmets 24/7 as long as they're on their motorbike. So you have to carry out enforcement. Actually, it should be sensitization first. That Ajoram Sonko, who is usually a good taker of street food, now will say, no, I'm not going to go to brother so. I'd rather enter this restaurant, or will tell that particular person, but brother, improve on this. I'm going to stop taking your Rolex. I'm going to stop taking your Chikomando. You know, improve on this. Now, when the people buying are sensitized and they call for these standards, that will be in the right direction because they have knowledge. They'll know the danger and they'll force the other people to comply because they're there to make business.
Well, thank you, Robert. Now, I have a few comments. One is from Emma, and he says, unemployment rate in this country is alarming. Most of these food vendors are youth. To me, let the city authorities emphasize on hygiene measures rather than stopping it completely. Jerome, that's where I need to have your thoughts. Robert said sensitization, because the truth of the matter, street vending is going to continue. And Uganda is not the only country that has street vending. If you travel to, let's say, Asian countries like Thailand, you're going to exactly. But what safety standards and hygiene standards do these have that we can actually emulate and ensure that the food we eat is safe and that the youth are making money?
I think we've also undermined the fact that the setting of these street vendor stalls in these countries is also in cleaner and safer environments, basing on the city plans, which we've failed as a country. That you're putting street food close to the city center, and you know, the road or the walkway or the pathway looks very clean, tidy, and all of this. But in our country, the thing is, in most of the city centers or in towns, the authorities are chasing high street vendors off the streets, meaning they're not giving them the chance to easily work within the means that are available. So for us, we are getting rid of them. We are not giving them solutions.
So are you saying we should find a solution by giving them a designated place where they can work from, and which is clean? Because sometimes this food is next to drainage.
Now the reason as why it is close to the drainage systems is because they are being chased away from the city where they used to operate, and now they are looking for areas that are still close to where people are passing. Now the unfortunate bit is they look for dirty areas, but because even
they
our
find
roads,
dirty areas.
No, that is what they look for, because that is what is available. So it's more equivalent to looking for those areas, because they are the only closest to where people are passing by. And when you look at the feeder roads that we do have in the country, they are dusty roads. They are roads, if it does rain, they become muddy, but it's still the same area where someone is frying the chapatis or selling samosas and roasted maize and what have you. But then there is also the fact that we cannot live without the street vendors. Why? Because the economy that we are having today cannot support people to, cannot support every Ugandan to afford food that is above 10,000 shillings or above 5,000 Ugandan shillings. Because if a Rolex goes for 2,000 Ugandan shillings,
and the
Chikomando 1,000, 2,000, you have a roadside chicken that ranges from 4,000 to 7,000. For someone who cannot go to these high-end restaurants that will sell you the same kind of, however much, you know, the spices are different at, let's say, 30,000 or 50 and above, not all Ugandans are earning handsomely to afford all of this. Now, what we need to do as well, before even sensitize the Ugandans, the unfortunate bit is that Ugandans do not like good things. Let's say a section of Ugandans do not like good things.
What do you mean by that?
No, by the level of how we consume certain products and by the level of how we buy certain things, clearly people just buy things for the sake of buying. Some people, let me change the wording. And in this regard, when you look at this kind of conversation we are having, we cannot sensitize a generation that feels their life is something that they are entitled to. Let's say the safety of their life is none of, let's say, the government's business. Because when you look at sensitizing, you sensitize a Ugandan and tell them do not consume or do not buy roadside chicken, the person will tell you "Bunobula mbwange." So in that way, you're not sensitizing that kind of person.
It's hard to sensitize that person.
So I best believe the best way is in this local government planning, we need to just plan better for, let's say, these towns and city centers where these roadside vendors are. When I was in Soroti, as I'm summing up, there's something I noticed, that most of the roadside vendors in Soroti are around the streets, and these streets are very clean. To the fact that if you are to buy food and it's contaminated, it goes back to the person selling it to you. Meaning, if at all we can create those cities and maybe create a designated spot for these roadside stalls and the vendors, then we can have better planning and at least we can control on the level of contamination.
Well, thank you, Joram, and thank you, Robert Chirabo, for your submissions. And dear viewers, thank you. The last comment is from Oscar from Soroti. He says, Joram, this incident is countrywide. Here, there is a dusting road called Serere. A dusty road called Serere. My appeal, let the government improve the road structure and tarmac them for us to not have dust as a mixture in our food. Thank you so much for your views. Good Morning Uganda does continue. Now up next is Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express with Lucky Zakir.
Live from UPC Studio in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Earlier last year, I visited India and I was blown away by people's comments, especially when I put up my pictures testing street foods. And of course, the experience wasn't any further from what comments I was receiving on how these foods are prepared. The experience, I do not know if these people visited or they've seen it in videos. But let's see, as a tourist also that has visited different places in my home country, I've realized this is not any further from what I experienced there. Talk about Namawojolo, talk about all these people that prepare street foods, those that like to experience Rolex along the way, which is why we bring you a very interesting topic today, which is culinary tourism. And for those of you who do not know what culinary tourism is, this is food tourism in simple terms. Food is a very important aspect that we cannot do without in tourism. Look at all the places you go to as you wake up and prepare for your journey. Food is definitely going to cross your mind in whatever you're planning to do during the day along the travels. And which is why we bring to you a very important topic, which is culinary tourism. We will be talking about hygiene specifically. From my experience from the countries that I've traveled, it has come to my mind that this is a very important aspect for a tourist because when I visited India, I actually realized why most people mind or hesitate to buy certain foods from certain places. And I was blown away, of course, coming back from home. You know, we richly have a number of foods coming from different cultures, but I will highlight specifically the Rolex, which has gone international. We've had most international tourists come and want to test the Rolex, but how best have we packaged it for them to consume? And we've had even some of them highlight how hygiene has not been appealing to them, which is why today now we are discussing hygiene. And like I earlier showed you, food hygiene is a part of our day-to-day living, and I was so honored to be a part of the process while preparing this food. But one of the most interesting things is when I walked into the kitchen, the very first thing they handed to me was a headgear. I have seen this in so very many different places, but I'm curious, why do you wear the headgear?
Thank you for a very good question. Before entering to the kitchen, we handed you this headgear in order to avoid air from falling into our food. Yeah?
And I realized you had more actually with you. At some point I saw you wear gloves before starting to cut these foods and have your apron on. What is the importance of having all of that before you start actual preparation of food?
Thank you very much. It is really important. It is really important to avoid contamination of food. Yeah? It is really important.
Okay, and other things that I realized is you had all these foods washed before starting to cut. The tomatoes, onions, and then Irish. What is the importance of washing these foods? Because most people actually assume you only have to clean tomatoes. Once the tomato is washed, the rest can just be chopped off and you continue with the preparation. So why did you go ahead to wash these tomatoes and Irish before starting to cut them and prepare them?
Because now they pick them down from the garden, yeah, yes, to the market, and you also pick this one from the market. You have to wash them to avoid bacteria falling, dirtiness, yeah? Yes. So you have to be really curious, wash them thoroughly very well with running water. Yes. They will be ready to be eaten or cooked.
And we've seen other people also use warm water. I don't know if is it something that you need to use. Do you have to use warm water, or you can use any?
It's okay. Some people believe that using warm water can boil bacteria, burn bacteria. But it is all wrong washing. It is only washing. Just thoroughly wash whatever very well. Market items, and you will be good to go.
But I've realized personally, as a tourist that has walked to street vendors, I've not seen anything like that, and also how it's packaged. And I've also not seen this headgear on their head. So does that particularly mean these foods are not safe from eating, or there are other measures that these people take without having the headgear on?
Without a headgear, you can practice cleanliness, yes, as long as you cut your fingernails short. Yes. For last men, maybe also you can try to cut your hair short, or you try to put any other thing that can just stop you from contaminating one's food, the client's food.
Yes. So as a day-to-day tourist, how can I feel that this food on the streets is safe? Because most people are starting to run away from street foods and rather going for foods that are made in restaurants. How am I supposed to start trusting these foods? I've probably traveled all the way from Kampala and I get to Namawojolo as a tourist. How am I going to trust your foods without having to look for KFC in that particular area?
You can first look around. Hygienically, you can just look, use your eyes. Yeah?
Yes.
You know, here we believe that eyes eat first.
Yes.
Yeah. So try to see that hygienically this area is stable before deciding where to eat from.
That is a good one, because most people judge by their eyes in the first place, and food is something we cannot do without. That is important because most tourists' eyes, of course, judge in the first place before they get to where they are going to source these foods from. Now, when I visited India, I realized most of these areas are not well taken care of. So how can a tourist easily come to your particular area without doubting the food that you have prepared for them?
We have to be hygienically stable. We have to start to set those standards of cleanliness.
Yes.
Before receiving our tourists or our customers.
I'm wondering how many people here are going to lose clients, because most tourists are actually purchasing foods along the way because of time, and if we don't ensure this cleanliness, I don't know how many people are going to run out of business. But also, if you're to consider international tourists and domestic tourists, do you put these things in place regarding on who you are receiving in your restaurants?
Yeah, very sure. I think it starts with you.
Yes.
Yeah? Because also at the end of the day, the food you consume, if it is really bad, it affects you. Let's start with you. Let the hygiene start with you. Then we spread it all over.
Okay, but I also realize when a tourist is walking into a restaurant, they judge by how you actually come to them, especially when we get to serving this food. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, it starts with you. Now, and I realize you wear your smile a lot. I don't know if it's part of the preparation as we get to the hygiene bit of it, but I realize most of them judge, and it is either the last time they're coming to your restaurant, or if they are to keep coming, or probably recommend other tourists to keep coming to your area. So how best have you tried to stand out as Wyatt to keep your clients coming in? Because we believe every client is actually a tourist. You don't know where they've come from, whether they're from outside Kampala or what. So how have you kept your standard and your food? Because if at all the food is not nice, clearly, you know, our stomachs speak loud, so clearly they will not come back to this place.
That's really true. Thank you for that. It's through trainings. You have to train yourself, and we do training. We train our staff.
Yes.
So the best thing is really hygiene. Yes. Hygiene is even us in the kitchen, in culinary whatever. We believe that a best chef is a cleaner.
Yes.
So cleanliness should be the key factor.
But do you maintain also this cleanliness in places like festivals, where tourists also walk in, but also you don't have the entire day to ensure that you have to make sure your headgear is on, the gloves, yet you have to produce this Rolex at that particular time? I suppose you've attended food festivals and you know how things are done. I walk to your stall and you just have to prepare for me or give me this piece of chicken, and then I walk away. Have you still taken time to ensure those measures regarding hygiene on how you're going to serve these different people?
Yeah, some of those people have gone under that kind of training, and who knows what really food means and what it affects. Like when you come to our health, do that exactly. Yeah.
And I'm curious, what are some of the comments that you've received back from these tourists that come and support you at your workplace? What is some of the feedback that you receive from them after you have served these foods to them?
Thank you. It's a very good one. We are. I think we are blessed. We have fresh things, fresh items. Yeah? When you visit our markets, you just feel fresh of everything. So tourists likes that. Yeah? Tourists really like.
You've taken a step to find out what tourists like, and you've made sure that you get exactly that.
Yeah, sure. That's true.
Okay, that is amazing. You just had it all from him. Let's ensure that we try to give the best to our tourists, because at the end of the day, these are people that are supporting us, yes, and we have to, give the best services to these people. Tourists are walking in all the time. You will never know when to expect them, but all the time. So you have to make sure that these services and all your foods are kept in proper hygiene. Make sure when you are in your kitchen, you still ensure the same. because tourists are going to walk in any day, anytime.
And if you are out there and you would like to know how it is done, just visit Wayat.
I actually had the experience. Like I told you, I was a part of this entire process, and I saw how hygiene was taken seriously, and maybe to appreciate the kitchen was clean enough, which is quite unpopular in most of the places. So you heard it all from him. And maybe if you have any other closing remarks regarding guiding these people how they should pull that aura regarding keeping their clients coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much. In this industry, as I have earlier mentioned, a good chef is really a cleaner.
A good chef is a cleaner.
Yeah, sure. You have and hygiene is a basic. You have to be hygienically stable, everything clean, you practice everything in a really good way, and you'll be able to receive clients. Yeah? That's it. In any case, you need to see how it is done. Just visit Wayat here and Nadia, your experience.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, welcome back from GMU Tourism with Zakia Lucky. My name is Julie F. Nantaba Musisi, and I'm here to give you GMU business, and starting off with a word to farmers, especially speaking at the launch of the 9th edition of the Harvest Money Expo. Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, called on all districts in Uganda to send representatives to the upcoming 10th edition of the event. And he expressed that there was no better extension platform than the Harvest Money Expo, and he indeed wanted to challenge the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Industry and Fisheries to ensure that representatives from all districts attend, and at the very least, a chief administrative officer should send 2 representatives. Tumwebaze made these remarks after witnessing significant advancements in value addition, mechanization, technological innovation and agricultural practices showcased at the expo. And moving on into matters, a bit of money. Don't we all love cheap things? But MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited, that is MTN Momo, has said that the recent deductions from customer mobile money accounts were part of an effort to recover transaction fees that were accidentally omitted due to a temporary system glitch. And on Thursday, several mobile money users took to social media to share screenshots showing deductions ranging from as low as 500 Uganda shillings to about 900 Uganda shillings on their accounts. The company attributed these adjustments to a technical issue that caused certain transaction fees not to be charged in real time. And in a statement issued by the telecom firm, the company clarified that the deductions referenced in the report were not part of any illicit activity. Now, MTN said through a technical error caused payment fees for certain transactions not to be charged in real time. And the company said that once the problem was identified, the company moved to address it by initiating the recovery of outstanding transaction fees by February 13th. MTN Mobile Money has more than 13.2 million active customers on mobile money, and this is according to the company's latest financial reports. Looking at matters internet usage rises as traditional media consumption drops. Now, what you need to know really is the fact that internet usage is a primary source of information, and it has risen from 10% in 2009 and up to 26% as of last year in a report. Now, the increase underscores the growing importance of digital platforms, particularly social media, in shaping public opinion and information consumption. Now, as traditional media fades and internet use rises, advertisers must swiftly adapt to stay relevant and connect with audiences in this shifting landscape. And this is all according to Ipsos and the National Audience Measurement Survey Technical Research Team as of the report 2024 to 2025. The study, which surveyed 10,002 respondents nationwide, indicates a continued decline in traditional media usage, while internet platforms are experiencing robust growth. Now, looking at matters Forex, by Friday, the US dollar was at its opening was buying at 3,674.50 and selling at 3,684.50. And by midday, the US dollar was at 3,674.32 and selling at 3,684.32. And by its close, it closed at 3,674.00 to 3,684.00. Now, the pound closed in at 4,611.60 at buying and selling at 4,624.15. And the euro closed in at 3,839.33. That is at buying and selling at 3,849.78 at selling. Now, the Kenya shilling closed in at 28.44. That was at buying and selling at 28.52. And the Tanzanian shilling was closing at 1.40 at buying and selling at 1.41 at selling. Now, the South African rand closed in at 198.77. That is at buying and selling at 199.31. And that's about it from GMU Business today. Good Morning Uganda definitely continues with amazing conversation, so stay tuned in.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks, Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better.
PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This week on UBC.
My name's Jung Gwonjong. I'm the boss of this entire hotel. My duties include heavy lifting, spreading happiness, and driving fancy cars. I'm responsible for the area by the hotel entrance. And I officially moved into the sunroom. You think you can cut my share of the rent?
Say what?
To maximize my space, I needed to improvise a bit. That day, she walked into my life. Hi.
So, insurance, right?
Huh? Like that. I can.
Don't let him scam you. We don't want your investments or insurance.
I met the woman of my dreams.
I'll take you home. I got the Maserati.
How do you spell Maserati?
M-A-S-H.
Okay, we're leaving. You shouldn't drive, especially not in that car. The cops will fine you extra. His family's got money and don't know what to do with it.
What's your name? Huh? I'm reporting you.
If I were to be with a guy like that, I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror.
Maybe all rich guys are like that. I'm not a rich guy. I'm down to earth. No, don't. It's not worth it. But after I met you, I suddenly got out of bed.
John Wonjong, I really was wrong about you. After meeting me, you learned to walk. This isn't a love story, it's a medical miracle.
And all the women in the club will be like sisters to me.
Respect is most important in a relationship. If a man doesn't respect a woman, then he's no man. Here, keep it safe. It's your playbook. Trying to be meaningful all day with them. In the end, you'll still be single with a bunch of new mom.
I was smiling all day, every day. When I woke up every morning, I wanted to yell out, I'm so happy. If there's such thing as a miracle.
You're not a miracle. You're a maniac.
Most of the time, our lives are lackluster. when you add all the brilliant moments, or what we call miracles. Welcome.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, thank you for sticking with us. Good morning once again. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and you are watching Good Morning Uganda, where we normally give you updates regarding all the latest stories that you have seen in the news. Now, in our agenda segment, we normally have conversations with policy makers and opinion leaders and people that have a clear understanding of some of the issues that we seek to explore on this program. Now, the senior 5 students are about to go back to school. They're supposed to join A-level on the 3rd of March. Their results were released the other week by the Uganda National Examinations Board. Of course, on the table has been one point of concern, and that has been the grading system. Many parents are still grappling to understand what the new grading system stands for and how it now, of course, tells how the children will transition into A-level and what they will be studying, which also brings something else onto the table, understanding a new abridged curriculum for A-level that the Ministry of Education and Sports has highlighted will be adopted by the new senior 5 students of 2025. So we have a lot to unpack, and I'll be having a conversation on the same with Mr. Byarugaba Bonaventure, who is a curriculum specialist of physics at the National Curriculum Development Center, and also Mr. Agaba Joseph Jude, who is the curriculum specialist biology still at the National Curriculum Development Center. Together, first of all, we are going to try to understand the grading system, but also majorly we will delve into the abridged A-level curriculum, have an understanding of the same, how it is different from the old curriculum, and also what were the considerations that were based on for us to have this new curriculum. It should be remembered that the Ministry of Education and Sports did mention that they had a whole new curriculum for A-level, but they didn't have enough resources to retool the teachers as timely as was needed. So they had to come up with a new curriculum that will support the competence-based curriculum that we currently have at O-level, where we had the first final examination sitting last year in October. And now those students are transitioning into A-level, where this new abridged version will be adopted. But allow me to introduce my guests. That is Mr. Byarugaba Bonaventure. Good morning, and you're welcome.
Good morning, moderator. Good morning, our viewers. Thank you very much for inviting us. I'm
glad to have you here. And the other guest is Mr. Agaba Joseph Jude. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Olivia. And good morning, our dear viewers. I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Well, dear viewer, let's now delve into our conversation, starting with the grading. We saw most parents are confused, for lack of a better word. As a parent that has a candidate in senior for this year, I want to make sure I understand what this grading system means, so that by the time results come back next year, I'm not part of the parents that are confused this year. So, Mr. Agaba, I'll start with you. Help us understand the grading that we had recently.
Thank you, Olivia. And thank you, viewers. To be able to understand the grading, you need to look at the curriculum as a whole.
Yes.
And our curriculum is a competence-based curriculum, meaning that our learners are assessed basing on their abilities, what they're able to do. And that's how you get the word competency. The system was introduced when these learners, the ones who have just completed, were in senior 2. So it's not something new. They have been going through it, and the school should be familiar with it. Maybe there was a gap that they didn't go on to pass on to the parents. So when a child goes through this system, they are graded according to what their abilities are. And if you saw what the National Assessment Body released, you had grades like A, B, C, D, E, with terms. For example, A means exceptional, meaning this child went way above and beyond what you'd expect of them. They displayed skills and abilities that were above what the norm would be. And then we have B that represents outstanding. The learner has shown that they've done very well in the skills, the way they presented their work. C is satisfactory, D is basic, and E means this child is able to do certain things, but they do not meet the basic standard. Now, there are a bit of misinterpretations about, let me start from E, that it represents F. Once somebody is able to do something in school, you cannot grade them as a failure. So you can't have a grade that is F, because these learners have certain competencies and abilities, although they don't meet the minimum standard. And then you go rising from basic up to exceptional. So the learners were graded that way. And another important thing our viewers should know is that in a competence-based curriculum, I am assessed according to my abilities. I'm not compared with Bonaventure or Olivia, meaning that what I'm able to do and what my skills are, this is mine. So that's why we have the grades according to A, B, C, and we don't have divisions, because if you're to get divisions, then you're comparing me with other learners. So you're saying all these ones got D1 and the rest got C3, C4. So to be able to put me in D1, you have to compare me with another group, which is not how a competence-based curriculum is. So in a nutshell, this assessment looks at the abilities of an individual, and those abilities are put in categories according to their proficiency levels, how well you're able to present your work, and that's how we have those terms as exceptional, outstanding, satisfactory, basic, and the other grade.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Agaba. Now, Mr. Byarhanga, do you have anything to supplement on that?
Yes, thank you very much, Olivia. To begin with, changing in the grading system is not happening for the first time. It has ever happened, I think, in the late 70s, maybe in the early 80s. The grading system after P7 or after junior, I may not put the facts very right, but was the total, absolute marks. You say, there were 3 subjects, English, mathematics, and general paper. And for example, to qualify for TTC or secondary, you had maybe a total of 200. Then after that, it changed to the distinction credit and so forth.
Okay.
So changes in the grading system have ever happened. Maybe the problem is that since that time and up to now, those are around 40 years without a change in the grading system. And, and we are not used to that. That's why it tends to become like a shock and
a confusion.
And a confusion. But we can interview some of our old citizens, those who are, there has ever been a change in the grading system. Now, to come to this, like my colleague has said, grade me according to what I can do, and we are looking at how you can use the knowledge to interpret complex situations in the society, not looking at how you cram and reproduce what was given to you by the teachers. Now, this sets to us what we would say is a criterion referenced assessment, whereby the standard for all of us is set. And we are now assessed, we are all compared to that standard to come into the categories that my colleague has talked about, the A, B, C, D, E. So it is not, we don't shift the grading, because somebody all of the people have failed to be exceptional, or maybe all of them have failed to meet a certain criterion. No, the criterion is set for all of us, and then we are measured against the criterion. If I were to use, say, a simple example of jumping, high jump.
Yes.
If the bar is raised and all of us can jump over, then we are all in the same grade and we are all exceptional.
It doesn't matter who jumped first.
It doesn't matter who jumped first. But if all of us cannot jump over, then it means all of us have failed to meet that criterion. We have failed to meet that standard. So our parents and maybe our stakeholders should appreciate that the nature of the grading started way back in our trainings. They may not have covered everybody, but at least all the schools were invited for different trainings, and we hinted on this grading that we shall not have the D1, D2 percentage marks and so forth. Maybe there was a gap there. We appreciate that there was a gap, but I think we would want to say that it is upon the schools to keep on enlightening the parents, because they interact with them in these meetings, these class meetings, PTA meetings, and so forth. So that we do, maybe next year, like you have said, we are not again asking the same questions. That what is the grading? One other thing that is of importance to mention here is that result. What has been mentioned as result one when they were releasing the national examinations is that result one says that the person has met the minimum requirements for acquiring a certificate of UCE. It does not mean the same as grade 1. Grade 1 was in the system where we are saying D1, D2, and so forth.
Okay.
And I think a small comparison was that from the UNEP side, they would say that somebody has qualified for the certificate, even in different grades. Grade 1 would qualify, grade 2 would do, grade 3 would do. So I think maybe it is a change. We are transitioning, and maybe Olivia, to mention just this on here, every new thing will have some of these things. Sometimes we shall have resistance, sometimes we shall have denial, sometimes we shall have, up to the time we shall have compliance. So we cannot say that it is completely out of range for people to understand. We have to give it time, because it is the first time that it has happened to change grades at senior 4 in around 40 years. Many of us were born when
the system was already
the way it is.
Okay. Makes so much sense. Well, if you're just joining us, we are looking at, we have been looking at the grading system that was used to have a clear understanding of the A, the B, the C's, but also the result 1, result 2, because many parents were wondering, does result 2 mean that my child had a first grade? Or rather, result 1, does it mean that my child had a first grade? Result 2, does it mean my child had a second grade? But Mr. Byarhanga here has clarified on that. It is competence-based, which means that if your child understood and is able to interpret what they understood, they have showed their capabilities and they got a certain kind of grading. Maybe it was an A or a B and a C according to their understanding. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, please. I have a small rejoinder to that.
Okay.
In the norm reference which we have been used to D1, D2, somebody presents and says, Bonaventure has a D2 in geography and has a D2 in CRE, and it stops there. In this system, if I have a B in biology, its description of my abilities is not the same as somebody who has a B in English language, for example. What you exhibit to acquire or to score or to earn a B in biology, those skills are not the same as the skills you exhibit to earn a B in geography. And this one, I think, becomes a bit more detailed because the description was there, that you are able to show how you apply the knowledge in real-life situations. So in biology, real-life situations in biology don't interpret the same as real-life situations in English.
Yes.
So the interpretation of B in biology is, yes, the term is outstanding. Outstanding in biology, outstanding in English, but the abilities that are different.
Okay.
I think that one needs to be clarified also.
All right. Now we move on to the abridged A-level curriculum. And I'm already receiving questions here from parents asking if the curriculum that the new senior fives are going to follow is the same old one that we know. And that brings us to our main topic of the day. The grading was like the subtopic of our conversation today. So, Mr. Byarhanga, still with you. Could you please provide an overview of the abridged A-level curriculum that was recently introduced by the Minister of Education?
Thank you, Olivia. And to our viewers, the Ministry communicated that there will be an adjustment or aligning of the A-level curriculum to match with the competence-based lower secondary, and that's very true. But to briefly throw more light, the A-level, what we are calling the A-level, what informed some of these decisions is that in the first place, in some subjects, the content was, there was a subject analysis. And in some of the subjects, there is an overload of the content. You find there is too much work. Senior 5 and Senior 6, 2 years, but did a lot of work. And what that one brings is that teachers go over, sending notes, copying notes, learners writing and getting tired, and so that they can pass these exams because they will be assessed from there. But the deep understanding and the comprehension and the competence of how to use this knowledge, lacking. That's one of the things. And in our books, I think A-level came to Uganda around in the 1950s. I may not have the exact year. But what has been happening is that when something new comes, we add it. When something new comes, we add it. That causes the overload. But also the overlaps now. You find that there are like 3, 4 topics, but they may be talking about the same thing. And that one causes a wastage of time. And Olivia, we can't, with changes since the 1950s, if we have not changed, there is something that's no longer useful. What we refer to in the, as obsolete knowledge. What we may not need to teach people, which they can get from elsewhere because it is no longer of so much use in the 21st century. So this one informed the alignment of the advanced level to the lower secondary, so that learners who have been learning in that model, where they are a part of the creation of knowledge, not only receiving, not only being fed by the teacher, would not be shocked. Because when they come to A-level, and then it is now the business of the teacher coming and dictating and knowing it all, where will their creativity be? Where will their research, elementary research methods go? What will happen about their discussion? Learners have been used to exchanging ideas, and now here you bring them and say, from morning to evening, listen to me, I'm the authority. You wait, and these are the things which will come in the examination, and you must write these and pass. So that system would not help us.
Yes.
It is not democratic, I think. Quite many countries are changing from this authoritative teacher to a democratic situation, where the teaching and the learning take place together, where the teacher is part of the learning process. And that's the adjustment. But with also some reduction in the content so that the overloads are not there. You cannot come to learn where there is a discussion, where there is creativity, where there is research, and then you maintain a lot of overload for the learners. They will not achieve.
Won't have enough time to achieve.
So that's very true. There will be an adjustment, and maybe to put a rider there, the ministry will communicate appropriately.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Byarhanga. Now, coming back to you, Mr. Agaba, please tell us, let's look at the development and implementation of the abridged A-level curriculum. What processes were involved in reviewing and condensing the existing A-level subjects to create this abridged version?
Thank you, Olive. A number of processes that we went through to come up with this A-level curriculum. One of them involves looking at the current A-level curriculum and comparing it to the new lower secondary curriculum. Why was that done? Is to ensure that there are no repetitions, as my colleague had said. If something was learned at lower secondary, we shouldn't carry it over to upper secondary. Then within the existing A-level syllabus. We also did an analysis to find out what content is necessary for somebody at A level. That's a question some of us have trouble with. Because I was taught something when I was in school, we think it should be taught again. But when you look deeply, you realize some of the content that is existing shouldn't be taught. It's too high-pitched for A level. So we look at the existing A level syllabus, remove those elements which are too high-pitched. They can be learnt at a level beyond A level. So we looked at the current lower secondary curriculum, we looked at the current A-level curriculum, and then we do that analysis, remove, as my colleague said, content that is repeated. Where there are overlaps, those ones are repeated. If something is too high for the level of the learners, that one is eliminated. And then you come up with this one. We work with panel members in our work. And what we'd call panel members are practicing teachers at A level. So I invite a team of teachers, depending on what kind of work I'm doing. It could come from a team of 3 up to even 8 teachers from different regions of the country, and we sit and look at the syllabus documents. Because they're practicing teachers, they're more on the ground. So we have that discussion and say what works in school, what doesn't work, what are the modern trends, and what is obsolete, what should be removed. So with the panel members and practicing teachers, we do those changes. But one important thing for the abridged curriculum is it's aligning to the lower secondary curriculum, meaning that you have to carry things that are in lower secondary, things like the methods that the teachers are going to use. So at lower secondary, the learners were being taught through learner-centered methods.
Yes.
You would expect that one to be carried to A level. And so the adapted or abridged A level syllabus should have learner-centered methods. You have the forms of assessment. The lower secondary curriculum has a lot of emphasis on classroom-based assessment. And so you'd expect the A level syllabus to put a highlight on the classroom-based assessment. In the lower secondary curriculum, you have integration of ICT. That should also be carried on into the A level. And then catering for generic skills, values, cross-cutting issues, special needs education. So all those small things I've talked about, they're not small, they're big.
Yes.
But we need to carry them up into the A level. So that is what we went through in coming up with the adapted A level syllabus.
Okay. There is the question on subject combinations. Mr. Biarhanga, he is vigorously shaking his head. So the parents have been wondering, how is it going to be when it comes to subject combinations? Are there changes? During my time, we used to do, let's say, I studied history, economics, divinity, and literature in English. And I think now something has changed. Please help us understand how the A-level abridged curriculum is going to cater to subject combinations.
Okay, thank you very much, Olive. Yeah, like the colleague has said, there are things which will change and there are those which have not changed.
Yes.
For example, there are no new subjects starting as of now.
Okay.
There are subjects we started at a lower secondary, like Ugandan Sign Language, like physical education. But like you hinted earlier, due to some logistical challenges, we are not carrying them on to A level as of now. It's a future plan.
Okay.
We are not yet ready to put them there. But so no new subjects will start for this abridged version. But at the right time, when the overhaul of A level takes place, those ones will come on board.
Okay.
So the next one is about the combination formation. The format of combination formation remains the same. They will not change. And when somebody has passed the subject, and I think even in the older system, I know that maybe some of the schools would think that passing is only D1. When somebody has passed the subject, they can have it in their combination. Normally, the issue of how schools screen and raise certain standards, I cannot discuss that one. But the subjects, history, geography, economics, the way combinations are formed is the same. 3 subjects, 3 principles, and 2 subsidies depending on your yes, to subsidiaries, depending on your combination. Like it has been that if you are say doing physics, economics, and mathematics, then you do general paper in addition to and sub-ICT.
Oh, they still had general paper?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the way combinations have been formed is remaining the same, and I think that one will be clarified on the selection
criteria.
Which is, but if somebody has passed the subjects, I normally want to encourage our stakeholders that maybe what happens in some of our schools, some of us think that these are laws. That for us, beyond D2, we don't take you for...
yeah, we have schools of that nature.
But that's not the law. That one, I don't know how it came about. But if somebody has passed the subject, they offer it in the combination. And then the other thing maybe which our viewers and stakeholders need to know is that we are changing the methodology, so the time is not enough to change on the instructional materials. So what we have as textbooks, as laboratory equipment, as studios, as whatever in the schools remain relevant. The teachers will be oriented slowly on how to tune and change from picking this information and throwing it to the learners, but using this information and these resources to help learners develop understanding of the subjects in an interactive way.
Okay.
Then I think the other ones, the methodology, colleague has talked about it. But we felt that the concept of, say, generic skills is very, very important.
What does that mean, concept of generic skills? Yes, Mr. Gava?
Generic skills is very important for a competence-based curriculum. What am I able to do? So today we are here with you, Olive, and we're communicating, we're speaking. Our audience is listening to us.
Yes.
That's a skill. Okay.
Public speaking.
Yes, it's a skill which the learners can learn in class. It doesn't matter the subject. Doesn't have to be English only. You can speak in mathematics or physics.
Yes.
So there are five major generic skills that we look at. That's communication, critical thinking and problem solving, mathematical computation and ICT proficiency. Then we have innovation and creativity. At advanced level, we split those further. At lower level, they're kind of combined. But what we're calling these generic skills, why we're using the word generic, is that every subject, as a teacher teaches, they should try to equip these learners with these skills in every subject. I will emphasize that. So you don't leave communication to English, or we don't leave mathematics to mathematics. Every subject should build those skills. Why are we focusing on those skills? Those are the skills we need out in the real world.
Because you're going to be a doctor and you're presenting a paper on something, and it doesn't matter whether you didn't do so well in your English classes, you must speak.
You have to speak.
Yes.
Whether you're riding a border, you need to think about what you're doing.
Yes.
So that you don't cause accidents. And that critical thinking, problem solving, these are important skills that we need to build in our learners, that they need for the rest of their lives. So they will be incorporated in all the subjects, and they keep building on them, so that by the time the learners leave school, we know that they can fit in society, irrespective of what they studied.
Okay.
So that's what generic skills is about.
All right. Thank you. You have something to add to that?
Yes, please. In addition to what the colleague is saying, when surveys were made, especially for the lower secondary, and the Ministry of Education, UNESCO, they interviewed some of the people. What would you want in the products, for example, who graduate after, who leave after senior 4? One interesting bit was the industrialists and the employers. They were not saying that you need to get somebody who has scored 8 in 8. They didn't say that we want somebody who has scored a D1 in chemistry, even if they are in the industry, manufacturing. They said for us what we want are the people who can solve problems, are the people who can work in teams, are the people who are trainable, are the people who can communicate, are the people who can think about what they are doing. And those are the generic skills. So it doesn't matter what somebody scores at the end of the day. We all need these skills to live in the world. Other countries will call them 21st century skills. Other countries will call them life skills. It doesn't matter which profession you are, like you have said.
Yes.
Whether you are an engineer, you are going to talk about people who are being displaced. You will not talk about engineering equations. People who are suffering from establishment of a factory somewhere, you will need to communicate to them what concerns their livelihoods. So that's why it is important to keep on strengthening the genetic skills in our subjects, and they are engraved or infused within the different learning activities, how people can work together. You cannot go to teach the whole day, 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. like you know these days, what has been happening. And then you expect the learners to learn how to communicate, to exchange ideas, because you have not been allowing them to do so, or to work together. So they have to sit together on the table and analyze issues together, and that one builds teamwork, for example.
So in my thinking, my takeaway is that it also allows for the nature of the learners we have today to thrive. Today we have learners that ask questions. Today we have learners that are highly confident. Yes. Because we have the internet, the learners are, for instance, I'll give you an example. In my profession, media, back in the day you would be breaking the news. In most cases today, by the time you break the story, someone has already shared it on social media. And our learners today have information that sometimes even the teachers don't have. The teachers come in to help them understand and transfer the knowledge that has been given to them in practical terms. So I hear you when you say that we really need to establish and re-ink the generic skills among our learners. But now let's...
Just one thing, Olive, sorry to interrupt. And it comes back to what we're calling the grading. So for each of the letters that we see, there's always a description. And that description should tell you what this person is able to do.
Okay.
And we hope in future, as my colleague said, it will move even up to the subject level. So I should tell you what I can do in the subject, and we expect an incorporation of the generic skills. So that if you come to my place asking for a job, I shouldn't focus on the A, B, C, D. I should read the descriptions, and they will tell me what Olive is able to do.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when the new competence-based curriculum was introduced to us, that was around 2020,
yes.
The biggest issue was teacher preparedness. And today, when we look at the abridged A-level version, because we had a new curriculum that we were supposed to get that was put aside for a time being because of resource issues. Now we look at the new version, it begs for the question, are our teachers ready? What measures have been put in place to train teachers on the new abridged curriculum, especially given the limited time before it is rolled out? I mean, students are joining school in March, at the beginning of March.
Okay. To begin with, we had a series of orientations or trainings throughout the country for the lower secondary.
Yes.
At most every region, 3 trainings. Now what was happening was that we would invite 3 teachers or 5 teachers, depending on the available resources, for around 5 days. 5 days training. Now, the assumption, I think, may be correct or wrong, was that these teachers will continue discussing and supporting their colleagues at the school. It is, all if it is not easy to have all the teachers going for these trainings in terms of resources, in terms of the space. And I think it is impossible. We wouldn't manage it. So the model we adopted was that cascade model, to think that in the school setup, head teachers, because we also had trainings for head teachers, should encourage and organize in-house trainings where these teachers who have gone through the trainings help their colleagues. But like I said previously, different schools are at different levels. Some of them took that one, others probably did not take it because of the things I talked about, the process of change. Either we are in a denial, it will not work. And you know, even as late as last year, June, some of the stakeholders were thinking that this one might not work until the sample items were sent to schools by UNEB, and that's why when some of our stakeholders woke up and said that it seems they are serious.
So there was doubt 4 years in, and there was still doubt that this new grading system would not be adopted.
Would not be adopted.
Interesting.
So it is the process of change. If somebody comes to UBC today And the one who was here when the first bricks were brought,
yes,
I think they would not agree.
They would have a challenge adopting.
Yeah, it has taken a process. So the same, I think last week or the other week, the PSC was talking about teacher orientation, about their bridging. But maybe one thing that we need to bear in mind is that some of the teachers have been teaching lower secondary, crossover they teach at the advanced level. So they should be able to adapt very fast. A few of them have specialized in only teaching A-level, and therefore they would need help from the others. But there will be some trainings. I may not say how long they will take, but they will be there to add on what we did for the lower secondary. Okay.
Maybe before I look at the comments, because I see many guardians and parents and citizens commenting, but someone here says it does look like we've had this competence-based curriculum for 4 years, but then the initiative to even have an abridged version seems extremely last minute. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you, Olive. It's not last minute. We, as you noticed, we're using the word abridged. We're not calling it a new A-level curriculum.
Yes, even the abridged, because if there is going to be teacher training, doesn't it feel like it's happening a bit too late when we had all this time?
Let me, okay. After the new lower secondary curriculum was developed, we started on the process of changing the advanced level curriculum to make it new. And that we did up to a certain point, but we realized it's going to be too heavy on the system. What does it mean? My colleague mentioned that you have, for example, all subjects that came from lower secondary would have to come to upper secondary. That means you'd have to retrain all teachers who are teaching the subjects at lower secondary would have to also come to upper secondary, and it became quite a resource-heavy activity. So, and then you have to develop new textbooks for each of the subjects. Therefore, we actually started the process early enough. But we reached halfway and said, this is going to be more than we can swallow. And therefore said, what can we do in place? And that's how we came up with the abridged curriculum. So it's not true that we're seated.
That you are seated waiting for. Yes, all right. It was important for us to have that clarification. And still on the same, I read somewhere where Mr. Mjimba from the Ministry of Education was saying that learners are not going to have textbooks. Please help us understand that bit.
They will. Okay. When you're changing a new lower secondary curriculum, one of the things that usually comes along is aligning the textbooks to the syllabus. That's something that has not happened in our country before. If you think about the books that we use, they were not aligned to the Ugandan syllabus. They are written by people out there. So if you are to do that for A-level, you would have to develop syllabus textbooks for that one. Again, like I said, it's a very resource-heavy activity. But we believe that the current books the learners have at A-level can be used together with the syllabus. We'll insist. If you're not using the syllabus, then you will have a problem. So we encourage the schools, once the syllabus comes out, they should study it, then look at what is in the current books, and they can be able to teach the learners. So what the communication is that we will not develop books that are specifically aligned to the abridged curriculum. Yes, that's what it means. Not the learners will not have textbooks.
But they will not have
the textbooks that are aligned to the abridged. Yes.
Okay. Now, I have a view coming in from a question really from Felix in Mengo. He says, I got challenged. I was asking myself, did everybody pass? As I saw, almost every result had C, B, A, B, C, D, A, C, C, D, E somewhere. And he's like, please, some clarification.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. Let me maybe make a transition from the older system. From the older system, D1 up to pass 8 is all pass. Everybody has passed from that level. So in the first place, for everybody passing has not happened for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, but like I said previously, in some schools, C4, you are excluded. You have not passed. Now again, first grade, second grade, third grade, all have passed in different grades. Now coming to this grading system, everybody was A, B, what. But probably you looked at it from one perspective. There has been communication, and actually it is now the concern that around 6,000, I think, around 6,000 and something do not qualify. So there are situations whereby some of our candidates did not qualify.
That are advised to go to vocational schools.
Yes, they cannot get the certificate, so they didn't pass, if I were to use that word. So it has happened, but maybe some of us have this kind of obsession of who is the best, how is our school ranked.
I even saw a joke where someone was saying, okay, so now tell us, must we take our children to those high-end schools or we stay in some other schools because the grading system has changed?
That one is a choice of the people.
No, because previously, people would take children in certain schools. For instance, I'll give you an example. I saw a list of the quote-unquote top 10, not that UNEB qualified them to be the top 10 or top 6, and there was Uganda Matters Namgongo, there was Gayaza High School, there was St. Mary's Chitende, there was King's College Budo, and many more, Seta High School. There was that list that was making rounds. Now, some parents would previously take children to a school of that nature because of the ranking. Now, someone was asking, so can I take my child to Chanamkaka somewhere because the grading is different?
So, to begin with, every child that goes to school to learn wants to achieve. I think that's where some of us get it wrong. That achievement is in a certain category of schools. Some of them, you are mentioning them here.
Yes.
Every learner who wakes up in the morning, carrying their bag, moving bare feet and so forth, in whichever school you want to mention, they want to achieve. So as a country,
learning outcomes.
Yes. As a country, if it has happened that they have all achieved, then that would be the very good thing that we wanted. Now, there is a problem, like I said. Over these how many years, we try to keep on categorizing schools according to how many first grades they can do what?
They can get.
And I think that one has been a wrong direction. When we look at some of the countries with the developed education systems, even here in Africa, countries like Ghana and so forth, these categories of schools do not exist. Learners learn from the schools nearby themselves. Most of the schools at the lower secondary will, what they call junior secondary, will be there. But here, there is, I think, a congregation of so many good schools, as we are calling them. Classes around here, Mukono, Kampala, Wakiso. And I think that one was not a good direction. So if it can be possible that all our learners can achieve very well, irrespective of the school where they have started from, that one would be okay.
We would be succeeding.
We would be succeeding.
Yes.
Now, whereas the parent was the right to raise that, should we take our learners to where? In the first place, government does not tell people where to take their children.
Yes.
They take them there on their own. But when it comes to the issue of money, they complain that the government is not regulating the money. But it's not by force. But anyway, on a serious note, it would be okay if all of us were able to achieve irrespective of the school we are learning from, because the service would be reaching every learner in this country. Countries like maybe Korea, like Japan, which we are aspiring to be like, have already abandoned this other thing of saying that there are certain schools which are
better than the others, and that the quality of learners from those schools are better than the learners from other schools.
Yes.
Okay, another question comes in from Kevin in Chira, and he says, how many subjects will be studied at A level by our new senior 5 students? And the same question is being asked by someone else. You didn't leave your name. Still asking how many subjects. We are coming to the end of our conversation, so answer briefly.
Yes, like I said previously, thank you very much for the question, Olive, and thank you our viewers. The subject combinations have not changed. The way combinations have been formed has not changed. If there were 3 subjects in the science or in the humanities, they will remain like that with the 2 subsidies.
Okay, thank you. This is a very important question that we had not really looked at. This is Makere Admon in Kasese Municipality, and he says, how have the UCE candidates who sat for the 2024 transitional examinations been prepared for the new A-level abridged curriculum? And I think that comment will also be your last remark.
Thank you. To understand that question well, last year was a unique year in that there were candidates who sat the new lower secondary curriculum and those ones who were in what you'd call the old curriculum. So there are two sets. Again, that's why the National Assessment Board is going to looking at the selection criteria. And why I'm sure one of the things they're going to look at is how those learners will be admitted for advanced level. So I'm sure communication will come in, but we cannot leave them and abandon them. So they have to be absorbed in the advanced level, but it will be in the abridged. And since it's a transition, it shouldn't be too hard for them to fit in.
Okay. Yes. And the same question, many people were asking that same question, and someone was asking, are they going with the new or old curriculum, that the gentlemen are not being straight? I think they have been straight enough. They're adopting an abridged curriculum for A-level. Now, abridged means they have considered what was already being taught. They have eliminated what they feel is obsolete and does not really qualify for the current times, and that is what they will go with. I think I have summarized that
and it will
well
be
enough.
a different, so there will be no old curriculum for the senior 5 of this year.
Okay. Thank you so much for your views. There are quite many, but I will not be able to share all of them. And of course, someone is asking, how many years are the new new curriculum students or abridged curriculum students going to spend in A-level? Those are still 2 years.
2 years.
Okay. Thank you so much for your views and for your questions. And we really appreciate that you have been part of this conversation. I have been speaking to 2 gentlemen. That is Mr. Byarhanga Bonaventure, who is a curriculum specialist of physics at the National Curriculum Development Center. And Mr. Bonaventure is the gentleman right next to me. Thank you so much for coming through. It's been a pleasure having this conversation. And I have also been having this conversation with Mr. Agaba Joseph Jude, who is a curriculum specialist biology at the National Curriculum Development Center. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you,
Agaba,
Olive, for hosting us.
All right. Well, we've had a clear understanding of what the new A-level abridged curriculum is going to look like and what they considered to condense it into the abridged version that the senior 5s that will be joining A-level very soon at the beginning of March will be adopting. Stick around with us. Good Morning Uganda does continue. Up next is Sports Updates with Ruben Mpima Chibirango. I'll catch you again tomorrow. My name is Olive Monica Najuma.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome to Good Morning Uganda, your go-to morning show to kickstart your day with all the latest updates.
Let's dive deep into issues that matter most to you.
In a world of stories waiting to be told, the headlines are your guide. Navigate the currents of news and knowledge with our daily updates of newspapers. Stay informed, stay empowered.
From the roar of the crowd to the thunder of victory, witness the drama unfold with our sports updates. Whether on the field or in the stands, join us as we celebrate the spirit of champions.
Rise with Good Morning Uganda, weekdays from 6:30 a.m.